You're the person who seems to have it all figured out. You're moving in the right direction, taking the right steps, but deep down there's something holding you back. The one thing that you can't seem to beat. The one thing that makes you feel like a failure even when everyone else thinks you're winning. You've tried to beat it with willpower. You've said, never again, maybe 100 times, 1,000 times, and you're still here. The reason that you can't beat it isn't because you're weak. It's not because you don't want it bad enough. It's because you're fighting the wrong battle. I fought this battle for 2 years and lost every single time until I changed this one thing. The one thing that I'm going to share with you today that makes this feel easy, natural, like real change instead of another thing that slips in 2 weeks. The real reason that your life hasn't changed yet isn't because you don't want it. It's not because you're lazy or undisciplined, and it's definitely not because you're not capable enough. The real reason that your life hasn't changed yet is because your identity hasn't. Every single thing that you do is shaped by your identity. It's maybe the single most important thing in trying to change your life. If you can get your identity right, your best self doesn't just become possible, it becomes inevitable. You can set all the goals you want, create the best possible routine, do the good habits, but if you haven't changed your identity, those things will never stick. If deep down you still believe you're the person who procrastinates, who doesn't put in the hard work, who gives up, then you'll default back to that worst version of yourself. Change isn't about doing more. It's about becoming a different version of yourself. Shedding your old identity of the person who procrastinates, who does the bad habits, who doesn't work hard, and stepping into this new version who does the good habits, who follows the good routine, not through willpower, but automatically. They're just the person who does it. They don't have to think twice about it. Not through willpower, through alignment. Real change happens when your actions stop being a struggle and become a reflection of who you are. So I'm going to tell you a little story, and hopefully it can bring some clarity on the power of identity and how you can use it to transform your own life. Imagine there are two people. Both of these people are both trying to stop smoking. And when offered a cigarette, both of them say no. But one person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit," while the other person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." The first person still has the identity within their mind that they're a smoker trying to quit, while the second person just doesn't believe that they're a smoker anymore. He says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." Why would somebody who doesn't smoke want a cigarette? The first person is relying on willpower alone to try and quit this bad habit. He still views himself as a smoker, and so real change is going to be like fighting an uphill battle. This person has to rely on willpower alone to try and quit smoking. And relying on willpower is like holding your breath underwater. Sure, you can do it for a little bit, but eventually you need to catch a breath of air. You get dragged back up to the surface. That's exactly like your identity. No matter how much change you have made, no matter how far you have dived down, your body, your identity, brings you back up to the surface for a breath of air. Willpower can't help you break old habits or start new ones. That's what happens when you try and force change without actually changing who you believe you are. Eventually, your old identity brings you back to the surface. Back to this worst version of you, back to the bad habits, whatever. Real change happens not when you fight the current, but when you learn how to breathe differently. The second person who says, "I'm not a smoker," has adopted a new identity. The identity of someone who does not smoke. It's not appealing to them because they're not a smoker. They don't want a cigarette anymore because they are not a smoker. So saying no to the cigarette isn't using willpower, it's aligned with their identity. It's easy because it's just who they are. Their decisions and their actions reflect their identity, and they come to a balance and a center because of that. They have the identity that they don't smoke, so their life and decisions reflect that. And that is the key difference. When your actions reflect your identity, they feel natural and easy. But when your actions aren't aligned with your identity, they'll always feel like a fight, like you're losing this uphill battle. There's a quote by James Clear that says, "You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity." No matter how much effort you put into changing, into becoming your best self, if you don't align that with your identity, then you'll always fall back to this old version of yourself. If you can transform your identity, you can transform your life. So now let's talk about how you can actually transform your identity. Okay, now on to the best part of the video. How do you actually transform your identity? We've gone over how important identity is, how without changing your identity, breaking the bad habits, and getting consistent with the new ones is pretty much impossible. But how do you actually make this shift in your own life? To put it simply, your identity lives in the subconscious part of your brain. It's stored deep down where regular thoughts and actions can't really access it. That's why so many people have a really hard time trying to change how they see themselves and then the actions that result because of that. You have to implement clear, focused actions to start to slowly change your identity, one mantra, one day at a time. Reaching the subconscious is a long and slow process, but that means it's even more of an advantage because once we do get in there and change it, it's very hard to change it back. Your identity is a set of deep, automatic beliefs stored in your subconscious. It's formed by things like past experiences, repetitive self-talk, how others have treated you, and patterns that have emerged again and again in your life. These are the deep things that have been etched into your brain by years and years of experience. These beliefs are like software running in the background. You don't even realize that they're influencing your behavior, but they are. So how do we reprogram our subconscious to reshape our identity? Repetition, repetition, and repetition. You have to reach your subconscious through deep repetition. Okay, so here's an example. Say there's an overweight person who wants to lose weight and feel better. Most people would buy a course or hop on a diet or start to work out. They can do this for a week or two, but then their willpower snaps and they fall back into their old identity. Now this is where the repetition comes in. Say that same overweight person, instead of telling themselves, I'm trying to lose weight, says to themselves that they are an athlete. Every day, all day, constantly in their head, they're repeating to themselves, I am an athlete, I'm an athlete, I am an athlete. They say this 300, 400, 500 times a day. This is their only internal thought, and their mind may slip, but once they realize it, they come back to the mantra and repeat once again, I am an athlete. They say it to themselves silently when they're surrounded by others. They speak it out loud when they're alone. They scream it in the shower. They repeat it so many times that something deep inside of them shifts. They're no longer acting from this view of an overweight person, but from the identity of an athlete. They slowly start to take the actions that reinforce this mantra. They don't sleep in like an overweight person would. They wake up early, because that's what an athlete does. And they are an athlete, so they do it. They wake up early. It's automatic. It's easy. An athlete wouldn't go straight for their phone, so they go for a workout instead. An athlete wouldn't eat at McDonald's. They would make their own healthy and nutritious meal. So that's what they do, because that is what an athlete does. They are no longer operating from this view of an overweight person. Even though they still may be overweight, they view the world from the identity of an athlete, so all of their actions and decisions reinforce that. And then suddenly, their original goal of losing some weight has just happened. The thing that most people struggle with, getting in shape, losing weight, came as naturally as breathing for them, because that's their identity. That's who they are, and an athlete's actions are what they do. And so of course, they see the outcome and the benefit from taking the actions and having the identity of an athlete. So for you, in your own life, you have to reach into your subconscious with deep repetition. Say to yourself whatever you may want to quit or whatever you may want to become all the time within your head. Keep repeating it to yourself over and over and over again so that eventually it can drill its way into the subconscious and you can shift your identity. Day in and day out, speak this new version of yourself into your subconscious, into the deep neurons within your brain. Repetition, repetition, and more repetition. And I know this works because I've lived it. About 2 years ago, I had a bad habit that I just couldn't break. As hard as I tried, as many videos as I watched on it, everything that I did failed because my identity wasn't aligned with my actions. I tried willpower, I tried pushing through it. I told myself never again. Nothing worked. I kept falling back until I tried this. Instead of telling myself I'm trying to quit, I stopped trying to force it. I stopped fighting this problem with willpower and instead adopted a new identity. An identity of somebody who doesn't do it in the first place. And then I repeated it constantly, hundreds of times, every single day within my head. I was just repeating it over and over again. I do not, I do not, I do not. The same way I just described for the athlete. And the crazy part was, within days, not weeks, not months, just days, something shifted. The thing that had so much control over me, the thing that felt impossible to beat, was finally gone. And I felt something deep and so powerful and rewarding. I felt like I had finally gained my best self back once again. The version of me that didn't have this thing holding me back. The version I always knew I could be. And that's the power of identity. If you want to change your life for good, forever, stop chasing the goal and just become the person who does that thing automatically, naturally. Repeat it to yourself all day, every single day, and then you'll start to take the actions that reinforce that. Imagine if somebody was trying to quit video games. Instead of saying, I'm trying to stop, or I want to play less video games, they tell themselves that they're not a video gamer. They do not play video games. So when somebody talks about it to them, or when they see a video on a new console or a new game or whatever there is in the world of video games, they don't engage with it. They don't get excited like their old identity would have. They just move past it. It doesn't matter to them because they don't play video games. So why would they care about stuff related to video games? It's not who they are. It's not aligned with their identity. It's the tiniest of actions that support your identity. Every little thing you do either casts a vote towards your identity or away from it. Repeat who you are, constantly. Take the actions that person would take, immediately. Stack the proof until it's no longer something you're trying to become. It's who you already are. So if your life hasn't changed yet, maybe it's time to stop trying harder. Maybe it's time to become someone new. Now this is very fitting for the video, but remember, you can't change your life until you change what's in here. You got this.